right now. Right now, it's time to shift our focus over to the Metro Council. Joining us in studio is Metro Councilman Rowdy Gaudet. What's happening, man?
Good to see you, sir. Great to meet Alondra in person.
Right?
I'm kind of like starstruck right now. She's the one who fixes all your errors, and so it's pretty amazing to be sitting here. So
no, she does an awesome job, and great to have you in studio.
Cool.
Last night, last night, talking about the stormwater district. How did we get to where we are, and how did we get to the point of where we decided we're going to keep it?
Yeah, so we, as a governing body, the council passed a stormwater district. The entity was created. It was either late October, early November. We created that so that we could engage in a discussion about what does a stormwater fee look like. Now, as you well know, and as you've covered, and I think you talked to the mayor president recently, that initial conversation about a stormwater fee, the rollout of that plan, didn't go as successfully as the administration had hoped.
Right.
They pulled it back, but the need for this stormwater district still exists. The conversation about a stormwater fee hasn't gone away. Mm-hmm. Plan A has been pulled back. Plan A is not going to move forward, but we've got to come back to the public to have a continued discussion about addressing our water quality and our water quantity.
Yeah.
In order to satisfy federal regulations, in order to improve water quantity here in our community. So the discussion continues. And then to get back to last night, getting rid of that utility district, we had a conversation about it, and kudos to Councilmember Lori Adams for bringing that discussion forward. But ultimately, we said, let's keep it around. Now, she also gave a caveat that this may come up again. So continue to have the conversation around the whole thing.
Okay. And the conversation is not going away because none of our, because the water's not going away.
That's exactly right.
And we don't want to be back in a position where we were in 2016 or even May of 2021.
Yep. So the mayor's talked about forming a committee, taking a look at it. So for purposes of the listeners in the community, the topic of stormwater is not going away. And I know everyone knows that, but I mean, satisfying the federal government in terms of our water quality, that topic continues.
Well, and so to me, that topic was one of the surprises of this last year when it comes to the amount that it's going to take to get everything done. When the $40 million number started being thrown around, and Kelvin Hill was in studio talking about this, and he started talking about the EPA, and I'm like, what does the EPA have to do with us flooding?
Yeah,
and
that's right.
You hear stormwater district, and you start thinking, I don't want my house to flood anymore.
That's exactly right.
Not our water is polluted the moment it hits the ground.
That's exactly right. So there were two conversations happening. That's what I just referenced. Water quality, which is what the EPA is focused on, and quantity, which is what most of our residents are focused on. I don't want the water to come close to me, my house, my family. Both are a conversation our community is having. We've got to figure out, because we're in this time frame now where we have American Rescue Plan dollars that have come to our local government via the federal government, and we're able to utilize those dollars very effectively towards drainage, and we're doing an effective job of that. That one-time source, though, comes to an end in a couple of years. And so as a council, as an administration, as a community, we've got to determine how do we continue to address our drainage issues, our water quality issues, beyond this sort of influx of federal dollars that have come in that we're taking full advantage of, and we need to.
Right.
But when that source ends, we're going to go back to, we got to figure out how to do a better job at drainage. We've got to determine that now.
Yes, I completely agree. Absolutely. And if there's an added tax fee, whatever we want to call it, for that end, I think a lot of people would be more in support of that.
That's right.
Now, when it comes to water quality, rain hits the ground, water runs off. I didn't make it dirty. Why am I going to be charged to clean it up?
So that's the public education component that has to take place. The plan that was rolled out was fast, got to do it now. Oh, my goodness, the federal government's looking at us, got to go. Everybody in the community said, well, take a step back. This train's moving too fast.
Yeah.
So that's why I think this committee's coming together. Let's do a public education component. Let's tell the federal government, which we did in the form of a resolution late last year, look, we're doing a lot right now to address both quality and quantity. Okay, we're taking those necessary steps. We're utilizing these dollars that are coming in the form of an American Rescue Plan So we've got to do all of those steps and then go do the public education component to tell folks, here's why this is important.
No, I still understand why it's important. I'm just saying we're not the ones that did it. Who's making the water dirty, and how can we not put the cost of cleaning it up on their back?
Well, I mean, I would say, let's all as a community take ownership of it. Do you drive on the roads? Do you, I mean, there is a sense of we've got to take ownership of this as a community. So when you drive on the roads, you are adding to when the water hits that road and then runs into the drainage system. We're adding to that water quality.
But there's scale here, Rowdy. There's scale. I'd say the Capitol Lakes is a good example. The Capitol Lakes are still remarkably polluted right now, right?
Yeah.
And we there was a story on that earlier this week. It's been done by I want to say they were blaming the railroads or something to that effect. Huh. There are those who pollute more than others, to be sure. So that's the part that I think a lot of folks are going to have trouble getting past. I can live my life, and yes, every time I drive a vehicle, I am in some way, shape, or form contributing. But what I'm not doing is throwing Dasani bottles out of and I'm not leaking, hydraulic fluid up and down the road either. Sure. There's levels of contribution to that pollution.
Sure, absolutely. But we all live in this community.
I understand that.
We all. The first formula that was used was based on impermeable pavement, and so the size of your home and the driveway and all of those things. That wasn't the right formula, so let's come together and see what is the right formula.
Absolutely. Metro Councilman Rowdy Gaudet is our guest. We're talking about a number of different issues that are in front of the Metro Council. I want to get to the hotel motel thing in a little bit.
Okay.
But can we talk about the trash fees?
Sure.
Because as far as I can tell, this is a done deal, right? They're going up, and that's over with?
Yeah, so we had that discussion with respect to the council had that discussion with respect to the contract for those services, garbage and trash services, back in December. And yes, we made the decision to enter into a contract with Republic Services. And during that discussion, during that debate, we set an amount for twice a week garbage pickup.
Yeah.
So what comes up at the next council meeting on the 18th is amending the ordinance to insert that amount. So still some discussion to be had. I would anticipate that it's going to move forward. But the ultimate decision that the council made back in December was keeping that twice a week garbage service for the community.
Why was that so important? Because there's a lot of folks that could scale back to once a week.
That's right.
And look, we've talked to a number of different council people about this and said, no, I need my twice a week.
That's right.
I get it, but what was the straw that broke the camel's back? Yeah. What weighted one side of the argument more than the other?
I'll share with you. So I had sort of moved to, I think we as a community could go to once a week, and then individuals, residents have the option of getting a second can. They can utilize that. Now, there were several factors towards that. You've been talking a lot about what's coming up with I-10 and sort of the traffic issues that's going to create when that construction starts. Mm-hmm. So having these garbage trucks on the road twice a week for me was maybe this is a time to transition our community to once a week pickup, and you can have a second can as an option.
Interesting.
So that's kind of where my thought process went to. But you had members of the council who said, listen, my community where I represent, if they've got to have that twice a week service. They were adamant about it. And I had several people come to me and say, twice a week is where it's at. It's got to be that. So it was a very good discussion to have. The council ultimately landed on keeping that twice a week service.
Why is Republic the only game out there?
Well, this contract was publicly bid.
Yeah, it was.
Put out there. It was for businesses to consume and make a pitch. Republic was the entity that was responsive to the bid that was put out there. And so we engaged with them on what that looks like. There was a long period of contract negotiations, and then we ultimately came to entering into a contract.
Yeah, we look around to other municipalities, and competition's a good thing, and I just don't think Republic has anything here. Will there be any efforts to recruit somebody to put together a better pitch so that we as a populace can get a better deal next time?
Well, there has in that industry there has been a consolidation of companies. So you don't have a ton of players in that game. It's a very expensive business. One of the reasons that, we talk to residents about there is a price increase, many businesses are facing this, is the cost of services. They're a heavy equipment, heavy people business. Both of those things right now are expensive. And so the cost of that went up. And so for us, it was, can we mitigate that cost to every extent possible for our residents?
The once a week, twice a week thing was one part of this. The poor service is another part from my end. It's every time the garbage passes, I have to go up and down my street picking up everything that's spilled over and whatnot. And it's just enough to where it's not pushing me over the edge to call and complain every week. But the streets are filthy after Republic comes through.
So here's where, this is kind of where I am as we enter 2023. Here's what I think we are trying to do as a local government body is provide more certainty to residents with respect to those basic services. So when you have frustrations over garbage, missed service, having to pick up what's come out of the truck, what steps can we take to eliminate that so that you have that certainty in your life? Because you're, as a business person, you're facing those workforce issues. You're going to be facing the traffic issues that are present in our community as we undergo all this construction. What can we as a local government body do to ensure those services are delivered? So part of the contract negotiations was, look, you'll have to bring in new equipment, trucks that better service, that better close the lid, if you will, so that those items don't fly out.
Right.
They've got cameras that are going in now. So when you call 311 and report this, they've got a camera that can say, you know what? We did miss Brian's service this morning. Or they say, you know what? He had his can right next to his mailbox, and so we just couldn't grab it. And so next time, can he just move it over 6 feet? We can have that. Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, and yes, that's one part of it for sure. But the other part of it is there's a gap here where I'm not the customer. There's a gap here where the city parish is the customer and I'm not. So if I'm the one who's subject to the poor service, there's no way to make that right all the way down to my end.
Well, I mean, I think our role is to be that advocate for you. And that was, that's what I said. Part of the conversation was we can't have what was a year and a half ago where we had too many calls for missed services. We can't have that type of service delivery.
I do like the oversight with the cameras. That's going to be huge.
And I would advocate for folks to use that 311 system. There's an app you can call 311 from your phone. That gives us a mechanism to document it and to track it. We had last night, as part of our council meeting, a report from Republic Services and the department in the city parish that oversees that contract and contractor, to hear from them about what are the numbers, what are we looking like, what's the service looking like. So when you call 311, it's documented, and we know you call 3 times in a month. That's unacceptable. There's some training that needs to take place along that route. You call 3 times a month because it's taken too long. It's not being picked up when it should. Maybe there's some adjustments. So all of that to say, it's an important mechanism for us to get data to make sound decisions.
Got Metro Councilman Rowdy Gaudet for a couple more minutes. Let's talk public safety for just a minute. Had Hiller Moore in yesterday. We were talking about homicide numbers for 2022. One of the most surprising and yet most expected takeaways was hottest zip code right now is 70816.
Okay.
That would mean that stretch of I-12, which includes the airline I-12 exit and the Sherwood I-12 exit. Both of those are home to some motels that are absolutely notorious for 911 calls, for drug trafficking, for human trafficking, for drug deals and homicides. What can the Metro Council do?
So I'll go back to what I said about how do we provide certainty to folks. As a policy-making body, the Metro Council, what can we do from an ordinance perspective? And I'll give credit to my colleagues, Councilmember Adams, Councilmember Hudson, who spent a lot of time working through this very topic with respect to hotels and motels, because what you don't want to do is get the good actors in a situation they don't want to be. Those hotels that aren't getting into this type of scenario, this type of
You're
situation.
eloquently trying to say you don't want to turn the lights on and have the roaches scatter.
There you go. There you go. Okay. You say it best, right?
I say it bluntly, to be sure.
So you find the language and the right balance to try to do that. They've put forward an amendment to an ordinance to do that, and I'm confident we're going to have a very thorough discussion about it at our next council meeting. I think the approach they've taken, look at the number of service calls at that place of business, and then make determinations when that business comes in for a permit renewal, is a very good approach. I think that's a good model that we could look at for other industries, other businesses that are experiencing similar issues with respect to service calls and things like that. So.
Got less than a minute to go. Cool. Rowdy, what else is on your plate? What's your number one goal for 23?
Well, I think, infrastructure has to continue to be the focus. So we've got Move EBR going. As I referenced a little earlier, we're starting to see nightly lane closures on I-10 in preparation for the construction that's going to come next year. So what I asked for at our February meeting, February 8th, is a report on how are we communicating to our residents about traffic mitigation efforts, about alternative routes. So let's start that discussion now.
Yep.
We're a year away from I-10 construction, but let's start that conversation now so that you can know when you jump on the road at whatever crazy time it is, 3 a.m, when you come to work.
Normally 4, yeah.
You can have some certainty about, is my route available today, or do I need to adjust and add 15 minutes to get to the office?
He is Metro Councilman Rowdy Gaudet. Appreciate you coming in, man.
Thank you.
Here's ABC News. Perfect. That was like on point.
And then I'm followed up by that guy.
Oh yeah.
Crime Stoppers. I can't compete with that.
Good stuff.
I'm so glad you didn't say that.
Do what?
Don't listen to him.
Well, and remember that's still hot.
Oh,
so
shut up.
That's. What's that? Rowdy's taking on Mayor Broom, right? Like next year? No. She's got one more term. No.
That guy would run.
Do what?
What kind of resume is that? He was appointed chief of police.
Yeah.
Now he's over Crime Stoppers. That's a resume for a mayor right there. No. Now his bride may have something different to say about it.
So the Republic Service thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the biggest sticking points are I can't opt out. I can't choose to not be a customer.
Yep.
Like if I were to say I'll take my own stuff at the dump, I don't want to play this game anymore. I'm forced to pay that. And the second part is if I'm the one who's subject to the bad service, I can't get my money back there either. Mm-hmm. It can be addressed down the line, but there's no guarantee that 5 months from now it's going to be the same guy on the back of the truck that screwed up in the one that screws up in June isn't necessarily the one that screwed up in January.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is sort of for the good of the community. Because you would be responsible and take your trash where it needs to go or hire your own private. Some would not. And so a parish-wide service to me is...
The ones that...
You know what, though? The reason that... I don't know how much time you got, but the reason that some of the Democrat members, which surprised me, said we got to have twice a week and even pay more services, which, again, that surprised me because I was saying I don't want to pay $12, $13 more a month. The reason they did is because they said in our community, if you pick up once a week, you're going to start seeing trash everywhere. People are just going to say, I got to figure stuff out. And so they advocated for twice a week. And it was a thorough discussion, which, again, I didn't anticipate because I was on the side of, I don't want to pay more every month. I'll get a second can if we need to. I got 4 kids. We make plenty of trash. I'll make it work at the lower rate because everything else in this world is going up. But ultimately, I didn't win the day. So.
Whether that trash can win a week or not is determined solely on whether or not your kids are still in diapers, right?
And crawfish bowl.
Diapers and crawfish season. Crawfish that's why twice a week is a must.
So keep having Lori on about the hotel motel. That's an exciting thing. I didn't say it directly, but massage establishments. That's the model for massage establishments because that's human trafficking. Those things, a few of them, the bad actors, are hotbeds for human trafficking. So you look at a mechanism to what
I said. Do what? They're all around. Like there's but they come back after they're busted.
So that's what I mean. But if you can get the permit process, which is what Lori and Dwight are doing on the hotels, where they have to come in and show documentation, and then you can say, wait a minute, you're the guy that we went to your establishment because you had a mattress in the back, and that's not good. So So it's a good model, and so I told Lori last night I'm looking at it for that. So
well, one of the things I said to Hillary yesterday was my concern is if you shut down the OYO or any of those 3 that are kind of hotbeds right there, are you only pushing the trafficking over to the Holiday Inn? It's literally right across the street. So while you it's the worst way to look at it, I understand that. you kind of know what you're getting over there? Meanwhile, the family that's traveling through town and booked their reservation at the Holiday Inn, they don't need to have the human trafficking and the drug trafficking in the room next door to them.
That's right.
Number one, for their own safety, and number two, what does Baton Rouge look like then? They can hop off an airline, go to the Holiday Inn, have a fantastic experience, and then go back along their way. As it stands, with that being, we're like,
it's a good thought.
it's going to be tricky to walk that balance.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. It's a good thought. Good discussion.
Well,
you coming in?
Yeah, he's up.
Yes, I'm up.
Yeah, you're up.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the time. Glad I came in today.
All right.